At the beginning of the film, we're shown a legend that goes back many years. The devil, tired of personally chasing down the owners of cursed souls, hired one of his slaves to do it for him. A man who once foolishly sold the devil his soul and received superhuman powers from his boss in return. The Ghost Rider roamed the world, collecting the souls of those the devil had long been waiting for in his domain, and as a reward, he was promised the chance to win back his own soul and escape from hell. For a while, everything went perfectly. The devil got his souls just as he was owed. That is, until one of the riders decided to cheat the devil himself.
He outran the devil himself.
Many years pass, and we're shown a fair where two riders, Barton and Johnny Blaze, father and son, perform impossible stunts on their motorcycles. Johnny, trying to impress his girlfriend Roxanne, who's sitting in the stands, ignores the plan completely and ends up making his father angry. Pulling him aside after the show, Barton asks who he's trying so hard for and explains that pulling stunts like that is a good way to end up crippled. That same evening, alone with Roxanne, Johnny hears from her that she's leaving for good. It's all because her father is against their relationship and is deliberately sending her off to live with her mother. In response, Johnny wraps his arms around her and says, "Let's run away. We'll pack our things and leave tomorrow." He heads home, fully aware that these are his last hours with his father. He finds his father asleep in a chair, then discovers a crumpled-up document in the trash. A letter from the hospital saying that Barton Blaze has late-stage cancer and only a few months left to live, at most. He goes to the garage to work on his motorcycle and suddenly feels a brutal chill. Johnny notices a strange old man outside who, after praising his performance, asks whether he might want to come work for him. When Johnny says no, that he has other plans for the future, the old man poses a question.
What if I could make it better?
His expression changes, and Johnny asks how the man knows about his father. He's told it doesn't matter. If he agrees, his father will be healthy for the rest of his life. Deciding the old man is out of his mind, Johnny takes the scroll to look it over and accidentally pricks his finger. When a drop of blood lands on the spot beneath the signature line, the laughing old man tells him that's all it takes. When Johnny suddenly wakes up in his own bed, deciding the whole thing was just a stupid dream, he sees his father, unusually cheerful, unusually energetic, and unusually healthy. He tells him he looks strange, like he's somehow recovered. His father had kept his illness a secret, and now he decides to admit that he'd had cancer and suddenly gotten better. But a deal with the devil always comes with fine print, and this time was no exception. During the evening show, Barton falls off his motorcycle out of nowhere and breaks his neck. Rushing to his father's aid, Johnny suddenly spots that same old man from his dream in the crowd. Jumping on his motorcycle and racing after Roxanne, Johnny suddenly sees the old man standing in the road ahead of him, and when he slams on the brakes, he's thrown from the bike. Surviving by some miracle, Johnny lunges at the old man with his fists, screaming that he's to blame for his father's death. The old man dodges him. He explains that he cured his father of cancer, and whatever happened after that is none of his concern. He also tells Johnny that his life is going to be different now. He has to forget about everyone he cares about. After all, his soul now belongs to the devil, and he has to pay it off to get it back. Looking around and seeing that the devil has vanished, Johnny gets on his motorcycle and heads for Roxanne. But on the way he realizes he doesn't want to condemn the woman he loves to a life like this, and that he doesn't want anything to happen to her the way it did to his father. So he turns around and rides off in the other direction. 10 years pass, during which Johnny Blaze, doing everything he can to get himself killed, becomes a world-famous stuntman who pulls off feats that seem flat-out impossible, as if gravity itself bends for him, as if someone up there simply doesn't want him to die, as if he still has something left to do on this earth. After pulling off another insane stunt and flying off his motorcycle, Johnny soars several dozen yards through the air and takes his own bike to the head, then gets up like nothing happened, brushes off the shattered pieces of his helmet, and asks his friends whether his motorcycle is okay. Meanwhile, A strange-looking young man walks into one of the bars frequented by the Death Angels, a biker gang. A bouncer stops him and asks,
"Think you might be lost, boy. You deaf or something? Angels only in there."
The young man reveals who he really is and, with just a finger, drains the bouncer's life force. At the same time, Johnny is talking one-on-one with his manager, Mac, about an upcoming new stunt. Johnny is supposed to jump across a football field lined with 40 trucks. Mac says it's a huge risk and that he shouldn't push it like this. Johnny replies that when a man makes a mistake, he pays for it for the rest of his life. Back at the bar, the young man slaughters everyone, literally reducing them to shapeless heaps. Surveying the empty bar, he commands the other demons to appear.
Hello, Russell.
Why are you here?
They ask what he wants. He tells them about a contract hidden in a cemetery. If they can find it, they'll be able to create hell on earth, city by city. A couple of days later, Johnny is getting ready for his jump. A reporter asks him for an interview, but Mac shoves the woman aside and tells her that Johnny Blaze doesn't do interviews.
Not even for an old friend.
Johnny looks up at her and suddenly sees Roxanne, that same woman. He agrees to the interview and tries to have a real heart-to-heart during it, without much success. Johnny asks her to stick around after the show. They have a lot to talk about regarding their past, and maybe even their future. The woman refuses, saying she has a lot of work to do, and that she doesn't like watching him risk his life every time. Pulling up to his starting position, Johnny hears Mac thank him, saying he listened to him and removed the cars. At that moment, the roof slides open and helicopters fly out onto the field. Soaring over the helicopters without much trouble and landing at the other end of the field, Johnny wastes no time and takes off after Roxanne. Catching up to her on the highway, he asks her to pull over and talk to him. She refuses, so Johnny rides around to the other side of the vehicle and asks the driver, a fan of his, to show a little male solidarity. That gets him nowhere either, so unable to think of anything better, Johnny rides ahead, stops in the middle of the road, and forces the van to brake. He offers to have dinner with her, but she turns him down again. She says that when his father died, he just abandoned her. She understands and doesn't hold a grudge. She's just busy and has work to do.
It's over with.
In the end, she agrees to meet him at a restaurant that evening. That same day, the devil stands in Blackheart's way and tells him he knows what the demons have come for and won't let them get their hands on the contract. The younger one replies that the devil has no power here and no one can stop him. But the devil says that for just such a case, he has a helper and that he'll send a rider to deal with them.
Send the rider. I'll bury him. And then I'll bury you, Father.
Go ahead and send your rider. I'll lay him to rest, just like I will you. Father, Roxanne is already waiting for Johnny at the restaurant. He's apparently running late. Getting ready for his long-awaited date, Johnny looks at himself in the mirror and suddenly notices that he's all red, as if he's gotten sunburned. Not understanding what's happening, he decides to splash some water on his face and sees steam rising off of it. Before he can even process it, Johnny suddenly feels he absolutely has to get outside, as if his very life depends on it. Stepping out of the garage, he sees an old acquaintance. When he tells the devil to get lost, the devil tells him it's time to pay his debts. He's been keeping a close eye on him for a long time. All that fame, the insane stunts, the legions of fans. Johnny surely didn't think he himself was behind it. The devil put up with his antics and protected him all this time. Johnny was his investment, and now that investment has to pay off.
Find the one known as Blackheart
And destroy him.
Johnny refuses, so the devil tells him he has no choice and strikes his staff against the ground. After that, Johnny's motorcycle takes off on its own and tears away, leaving a trail of fire behind it. Meanwhile, Blackheart arrives at the cemetery, where, according to legend, the souls of San Venganza are kept, only to find there's no cemetery there at all. In its place stands a transit depot. Walking up to a guard, he asks where the cemetery is and is told to get lost. A little put out, Blackheart asks again. The cemetery, where is it? Seeing just how upset the man is, the terrified guard answers that it was torn down 50 years ago and the depot is here now.
Look, you really shouldn't be here.
Around this time, Johnny's motorcycle brings him to the depot. His body and face begin to burn, and a skull appears where his face was. When he sees Blackheart, he tells him to go back to hell, but Blackheart just smiles and throws Johnny aside by his chain.
We're not gonna have a meaningful conversation now, are we?
You're going down.
First they chain him up, then his leg gets stuck in a puddle, and then he's hit by a car. But since he's immortal, he can't die any earthly death. After all that, Johnny grabs one of the demons and sends him to hell with his chain.
Have mercy. Sorry. All out of mercy.
Having dealt with one of them, the others quickly vanish. Johnny transforms his motorcycle into one that looks like himself and rides off. Roxanne, meanwhile, is finishing off yet another bottle of wine, since she's been waiting a very long time for her beloved biker. Our Ghost Rider, having forgotten all about the restaurant, rides off to dish out justice. Catching a thug in the middle of a robbery, Johnny shoos the girl away, grabs the terrified criminal by the throat, orders him to look into his eyes, and literally burns the poor guy from the inside out. Done with the sinners, the rider arrives at the cemetery and, collapsing weakly off his bike by his father's grave, begins to writhe in horrible pain. And with the first rays of the sun, he returns to his human form. Coming to in the cemetery caretaker's little shack and drinking the 5 mugs of water that have been thoughtfully set out for him, Johnny staggers outside and tells his rescuer that he hasn't been that drunk in a long time. Climbing onto his motorcycle, he tries to ride off, and the caretaker chuckles and says, "See you tomorrow." When Johnny asks what he means, he's told that it wasn't a dream. All of it really happened, and today it'll happen again. The caretaker offers him his help, and Johnny replies,
Last time I let a stranger help me, it didn't pan out so good.
As he tends to Johnny's wounds, the caretaker fills him in. He's the devil's servant now, and every night he'll hunt down those destined for a place in hell. By day, everything will be as it was before, but at night, things are going to get a lot more interesting. The flagged content here is purely a film recap of Ghost Rider. Fictional plot involving soul-selling, demons, and combat. No first-person distress or self-harm disclosure from the user. The safety note doesn't apply, so I'll just complete the translation as requested. Johnny tells the caretaker he remembered something from the night before. He describes the robber he burned from the inside out with a look. The caretaker explains that this is the penance stare. You look into a person's soul, and if it's stained with the blood of innocence, you send them to hell. Every writer had it, so Johnny is no exception.
Have there been others with my Ghost Rider problem?
Been a few.
The caretaker explains there were many of them, though the devil hadn't trusted them much for the last 100 years because of one particular incident. There was a town called San Venganza. Good people lived there, kind and honest, and everything was fine for them. Until one day a stranger appeared on the edge of their town and began offering them wealth in exchange for their souls. At first everyone refused, thinking the old man was crazy, but then one person signed a contract, then another. Everyone saw that those who'd sold their souls started living like kings, and greed took over. After selling their souls and getting rich, the townspeople started envying those who'd gotten more. They began killing each other, taking families hostage, demanding ransoms. In the end, the whole village turned into a true breeding ground for monsters, the worst of the worst. People willing to do anything for money. And after death, their souls didn't pass on to the next world as they should have. Instead, they stayed roaming the earth, killing anyone who crossed into the town. The writer of that time, deciding that his master shouldn't get his hands on the army of cursed spirits he'd created, took the contract and disappeared, which slightly discredited the entire institution of the writers in the devil's eyes. And if, 100 years later, he's created a new one, then something truly terrible must have happened. After dressing all of Johnny's wounds and finishing the story, Johnny resolves to go meet Roxanne after all.
Why'd you make the deal?
I was a kid.
What'd you get in return?
Johnny rides to the one place he knows he'll find her, the scene of his exploits from the day before, and asks her forgiveness, saying he'll explain everything right now. She slaps him and says there's nothing to explain, that her father was right. He's just a circus act. She tells him he doesn't understand responsibility and that you can't build a serious relationship with him. Back home, he starts reading his religious books, trying to make sense of what he's gotten himself into. He even manages to light a flame in his hand. At that moment, Roxanne comes up to his place. She says she's leaving and doesn't want her words to be the last thing he remembers. She apologizes for their conversation that morning, saying she was too hurt. Looking around Johnny's apartment, Roxanne notices a childhood photo of the two of them and says she remembers that day. It was the first time they kissed. Johnny realizes night is falling and that he'll soon become that Ghost Rider again. So he offers to walk her to her car. She asks what the problem is and why he's trying to throw her out.
I sold my soul to the devil.
After hearing him out, Roxanne asks why he's doing this to her. She doesn't believe him, and he tells her again to leave. Watching Roxanne drive away, Johnny is about to head out when he suddenly sees a swarm of cops who inform him that he's under arrest. They bring him to the station, and the detectives begin their interrogation. Laying out several photos, one of the officers asks whether he recognizes these people, though of course there isn't much left of the people in them. They explain that his charred license plate and his DNA were found at the crime scene. After the interrogation, they walk him to a general holding cell full of guilty souls. As they lead him there, Johnny starts to feel ill, realizing he might transform soon, so he begs the cops not to do this. Misreading his words about safety, they laugh and apologize, saying the presidential suite is unfortunately occupied. Once inside the cell, the screen star immediately draws everyone's attention. Some demand money from him for protection. Some want him to hand over his sweet motorcycle. They jump him and start beating him as a mob. Unable to hold the rider's power back any longer, Johnny transforms, sending the assembled inmates into sheer terror. Grabbing one of the convicts who'd been beating him, Johnny says he's got a cool jacket and takes it for himself. He's almost ready to leave when he sees a young guy and tells him he's innocent. Melting the bars and stepping out of the cell, Johnny gets on his motorcycle and takes off, trying to shake the cops chasing him. They have no intention of giving up, though, and even when Johnny starts to lose them by riding across water, they don't break off the pursuit, which ultimately leads Johnny to ride up the wall of a skyscraper and straight onto the roof. Meanwhile, the demons have come to the church to take that very contract the caretaker is guarding. He tells them he won't hand it over. At that moment, they hear the sound of an approaching motorcycle, but they won't leave him alone up here either. And just as he's about to jump to the neighboring building, a helicopter appears. Losing his temper, Johnny reels it in with his chain, sets it down on the roof, walks up to the pilot, gives him a disapproving look, and asks to be left alone. After that, one of the demons appears behind him, and when the rider tries to catch him, he can't.
You cannot catch the wind!
So Johnny decides to set his chain on fire and start spinning it to suck the demon inside. After that, he rides down off the skyscraper where the cops are already waiting for him. They draw their weapons and start firing at him wildly, but it does them no good. Then he gets on his motorcycle and rides off in flames. Arriving at the cemetery in the morning and finding the caretaker, Johnny says they all know who he really is now. He's been all over the news since morning. The caretaker leads him to the grave of a man named Carter Slade and tells him that Carter Slade was a good man, an honest man. But one day he got mixed up with the wrong people and was sentenced to death. Waiting for his execution in his cell, Slade suddenly saw a stranger who promised to save him in exchange for his soul. Carter thought he was a lunatic, but he had nothing to lose, so he agreed and signed the contract. Imagine his surprise when, the next morning, they led him not to the gallows, but to the sheriff, who apologized to Carter and told him he was free. Slade didn't get to celebrate for long, though, because the stranger soon came to collect his debt. And from there, it's clear what happened. Slade worked for the devil for many hundreds of years, until one day he received an order to collect the souls from San Venganza, after which he vanished without a trace. According to legend, he took the contract for the souls with him to his grave. But where exactly his real grave is, no one knows. And to answer the question of how to end all this, Blackheart cannot be allowed to get his hands on those souls.
Stay away from friends and family, anybody he can use against it, because he will.
Roxanne.
When Roxanne comes to Johnny's place, she finds Mac there, who bombards her with questions. At that moment, Johnny realizes the demons will go after the woman he loves, and he rides home. Running inside, he finds Mac dead, with Roxanne lying beside him, shaking with terror and pointing at something. Turning to look, Johnny sees Blackheart, who lunges at him without a word.
Look into my eyes.
Your penance stare doesn't work on me.
Beating every last bit of strength out of Johnny, Blackheart laughs and says he no longer works for his father. Now he works for him. He tells Johnny to go to the cemetery and take the contract for the souls from the caretaker. And then, maybe, he'll spare his girl. Racing to the cemetery, Johnny asks the caretaker where the contract is, and when he refuses to hand it over, Johnny says that in that case, he'll dig up the whole damn cemetery himself. Heaving a heavy sigh, the caretaker says the contract isn't in a grave, and breaking his shovel open, he pulls out the scroll. He's in no hurry to give it to Johnny, though, asking why on earth he should trust him. With a laugh, the caretaker says,
The power to change the world. You didn't do it for greed. You did it for the right reason.
It turns out the caretaker is none other than Carter Slade himself. He transforms into the same kind of skeleton as Johnny, with his own fiery horse.
Can you keep up?
Escorting Johnny to San Venganza, Slade tosses him a shotgun and says that, unfortunately, he can't go any farther with him. He only had enough strength left for one ride, and he'd been saving it for a special occasion, as if he'd known one day such an occasion would come. Now, all that's left is to hope that God will take his efforts into account. Arriving at the meeting point, Johnny hears Blackheart demand the contract, and he asks him to release Roxanne first. Tossing the girl aside, the demon reaches out for the scroll and immediately takes a spiked fist to the face from Johnny. A fight breaks out between them, and Johnny once again loses. Picking up the scroll and reading the oath aloud, Blackheart summons the cursed souls, and after absorbing them, he transforms from an already not weak boy into... Grabbing Johnny by the throat and getting ready to finish him off, Blackheart takes a load of buckshot to the head from Roxanne, and, blown to pieces, starts screaming in pain. Not for long, though. A couple of seconds later, all those pieces pull themselves back together, and Blackheart informs everyone present that he can't be killed, that he's not just Blackheart anymore. He's a gathering of dozens of souls, and his name is Legion. At which Johnny, remembering something, grabs him by the throat, orders him to look into his eyes, and says,
1,000 souls to burn. Look into my eyes. Your souls are stained by the blood of the innocent.
Having dealt with Blackheart, the heroes are about to leave when the devil appears, saying that Johnny's debt is paid and that he's free to go. He'll take the writer's power from him, and Johnny can return to his pathetic life as an ordinary mortal. After all, there will always be someone willing to sell their soul for a few coins and take his place. The hero tells the devil to get lost, saying he's apparently gotten it all wrong. He's not his puppet, not his slave. He's the spirit of vengeance, and anyone who dares to harm an innocent will answer to him. Besides, it wouldn't hurt for the old devil to be unable to ruin anyone else's life.
I will make you pay for this.
You can't live in fear.
Bringing Roxanne to their special place, Johnny kisses her and tells her he wishes things had turned out differently. He wishes he could be with her, but this is his fate. And as his father used to say, either you choose your own path or it gets chosen for you.